If your small business received a COVID EIDL during the pandemic, I'm Trevor, the EIDL expert, and today I'm here to share with you my amazing recipe for pasta fagioli. Oh wait, no, different video channel. That recipe is coming up on a different channel because we're doing other things. No, today we're going to respond to a YouTube comment on one of our recent videos, and there's a lot to unpack in this comment that I want to share with you. But the primary focus here is to say this to all of you in our audience. Number one, Linda Ray, my partner in life, love, business, and everything, including pizza, she and I are committed to providing you with accurate, current, real-time information about the COVID EIDL program and the SBA, and we've been doing that since 2020. And more to the point, she and I truly appreciate all of you for being subscribers, for liking our videos with the thumbs up, for buying our guidebooks, for booking 1-hour consultation calls, and for following us all these years. So deeply heartfelt expression of gratitude to each and every one of you in our audience. In this comment that I'm about to, I want to say respond to, but I'm also going to dissect surgically. Before I begin, I want to say this. Everything that you need to know about the COVID EIDL program up to this point in October 2025, I have answered that in multiple videos, especially this year, 2025, where we really dug into the details of the program, developments of the program between the transition from the previous SBA administrator to the new SBA administrator, procedures, the payment assistance program, other features of the program that impacts your ability to conduct your small business while you attempt to repay the loan. And what this video today is going to say to you ultimately is this. We appreciate your comments. We do. We truly appreciate your comments. But before you comment about or ask a question in the comments, please visit our channel, and if you're not already subscribed, please do it right now and hit the bell for notifications so that when we publish new videos, you'll be notified. But more importantly, once you subscribe, go to our channel. Go to the section that says videos. Click on that, and you will see all of the videos, hundreds. That is our free resource for you to answer pretty much every statement expressed by this YouTube commenter. As happens with other videos, where often I take the extra time to respond to folks and say, please review the previous videos we've done on this topic. When they're asking a question about being a sole proprietor and a personal guarantee, when they're asking a question about, am I going to lose my house? When they're asking a question about payment assistance. We've done those videos and they are free. And if you've been following us for any length of time, or even if you haven't, if you're new to the channel, please know that it is my commitment to you to really give you as much pertinent and relevant information in an accurate and up-to-date format as possible, telling you what you have to do, telling you what develops, reporting the news, if you will, about the SBA's COVID EIDL program. That does not mean we are here to answer specific questions about your business, because that is an extra level that we answer with our guidebooks, which you can purchase, or with our 1-hour consulting calls, which you can book in our calendar. And the reason you would think I'm saying this is because we're here to make money. Well, that is true, because we're a small business just like you, because people viewing this channel are small business owners. They are not consumers, okay, who are looking for the latest Downton Abbey DVD, which, by the way, yes, I watched seasons 1 and 2 yesterday with Linda Ray, and it was amazing. Okay. No, we are dealing with you and our audience as business owners, and therefore, as a business owner, I'm not afraid to say to you, yes, we're here to make money. But more to the point, the questions that we get, including some of the information in this comment, the questions that we get sometimes require a extra level of information I would need to answer those questions. And I don't think it is unreasonable for me to say to you, please buy our guidebook because we answer the question in that guidebook, or please book a 1-hour phone call and I'll be happy to give you my expert advice, custom made for your unique situation. Because the sole proprietor in you may have an issue with personal guarantee and collateral. Meanwhile, your neighbor across the street, who is also a sole proprietor but has an LLC formation, might have a completely different situation. Not might have. They definitely have a completely different situation. So we can't tailor our answers in your comments to specific questions. And again, the point of today's video is to say to you, before you comment like this comment I'm going to review, before you ask questions, please go to our video playlist where you can probably find the answer with just a little bit of work for free. But if you need further information, you go to the description below the video, or if this is a short video, which means it's in this kind of portrait mode, there's a little button, little 3 dots. You click on that and you'll see the word description. Wherever you see this description, you can open it up and you can find the links to our website, to our guidebooks, to our calendar to book a call. Or just go to EIDLconsulting.com where you can find all of that without clicking on the description. EIDLconsulting.com. There you go. To the comment today, Misty 1 Schultz states the following. I'm going to read through the entire comment before I respond to the comment. I thought I was getting a disaster loan. Now I'm just finding myself in the middle of a disaster. We received $150,000 loan with 3.5% interest rate in 2022. Nothing has been applied to my principal. I have paid over $16,000 and it's all gone to interest. And they're saying my payoff balance is still $7,000 over the borrowing amount. I have called 4 different phone numbers where I'm dumped into the same message of, you will not be able to speak with anyone, please email. My next step will be to contact an attorney. I've also thought that maybe I will just stop paying them and put that money in my reserve account and see how long it takes them to call me. This whole process is a nightmare. It feels more like a credit card debt than a loan debt. Well, first of all, Misty, thank you for sharing your concerns, your anxiety, your outrage. You are correct. The process is a nightmare. You are correct that you find yourself in the middle of a disaster. And yes, we've done videos about that before, including notably a video that I called The Help You Needed During the Pandemic and the Nightmare You Don't Deserve Today in 2025. Yeah, that's a video we did like 4 months ago, and you can find it in our channel playlist. Tuesdays with Trevor, Idle Chatter. The title of this for the moment, until you fix it, Linda Ray, cutting apple in the background. The help you needed is now the nightmare you don't deserve. Oh yeah. Let's dissect, Misty, your comment here point by point. You state here, I thought I was getting a disaster loan. Now, I am assuming, and I may be mistaken, that the loan you got, I'm assuming the loan you got is a COVID economic injury disaster loan, a COVID EIDL, not a natural disaster loan. Therefore, most of my response to this is going to be based upon my assumption that you got a COVID EIDL. If I am incorrect, I would love you to jump in the comments and say, Trevor, you're wrong. I got a disaster loan. Okay. Because here at Aurora Consulting, at the EIDL Expert, just to be clear, we define these 2 types of loans, which are different, modeled on the same basic foundation, but 2 different loans. We define them as the COVID EIDL, which is the COVID economic injury disaster loan that 4 million small businesses received during the pandemic. And the other loan that the SBA offers, and has done so since 1953, is the SBA Natural Disaster Loan, of which there are 2 components: physical damage and economic injury. The COVID EIDL was built upon that foundation for the underwriting and repayment purposes, including the application of interest first, and including the ability to defer payments. But going back to my assumption, if I am wrong, Misty, I invite you to pop in the comments and tell me, Trevor, you're wrong. I like to be told I'm wrong because I'm not usually wrong.
You're absolutely right.
confirm that for me at some other point. Maybe she'll even do a little B-roll and pop in here. I want to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong someday. I want to be wrong. To try to tell me that I'm wrong. Okay, Misty continues. We received a $150,000 loan with a 3.5% interest rate in 2022. And again, the reason, Misty, I'm making this assumption that it's a COVID EIDL is because 2022, typically those were COVID loans that were being made. Unfortunately, the interest rate you cite here is incorrect, Misty. The interest rate for a COVID EIDL for a business that earns a profit is 3.75% or 3.75%, not 3.5%. If your business is actually a nonprofit organization, an eligible nonprofit organization, and you got a COVID EIDL, your interest rate would have been 2.75% or 2.75%. Nothing has been applied to my principal. I have paid over $16,000 and it's all gone to interest. That is correct. If you read your EIDL loan agreement, Misty, it clearly states that all payments will first be applied to interest where applicable. And if you took advantage of a deferred payment period, which was 30 months deferred payments for the COVID EIDL program, and which was originally, I believe, 6 months, but ultimately was extended under President Biden, and Isabella Guzman was extended from 6 months to 12 months, if I'm not mistaken, for the natural disaster loan program, which meant that once you got the loan, whether it was a COVID loan or a disaster loan, you didn't have to make any payments for a fixed period of time. But, and this is one of the few points that SBA actually has provided clarity about in their communications, on their website, in the loan agreement, and so forth. But during that deferment period, if you took advantage of that, the interest would accrue on the loan because you borrowed the money because it's a loan. The government didn't waive the interest for you, Misty, during that deferment period. And again, I'm assuming it's a COVID EIDL, which means for 30 months, if you didn't make any payments, that interest clock was running like a taxi meter in a yellow cab on 3rd Avenue in Manhattan. I don't know, if Misty, if you've had the honor or privilege of riding in the back of a big old checker cab in New York City back in the day, but I have, and it was fun. Not cheap, but fun. Therefore, when you say you've paid over $16,000, it's all gone to interest. That is correct, because that number sounds about right for a $150,000 loan at 3.75% that did not make any payments for 30 months, 2.5 years. That's about right. Therefore, you've paid that $16,000 and it has been applied first to the interest as it states in the loan agreement that you signed, Misty, when you got the loan. Next, they're saying my payoff balance is still $7,000 over the borrowing amount. And again, Misty, that is probably a combination of remaining accrued interest from the deferred period and what we call in the financing interest industry, I'm a retired mortgage banker and I did government mortgage lending for 30 years. We call that per diem interest, meaning interest from the day that you see that to the day that it would be paid off. That's why that $7,000 is over the borrowing amount. You haven't, it appears you have not tapped yet into paying principal, Misty, because you're still paying interest from the deferred payment period. And on these points I've covered so far out of your comment, again, I would call your attention to our video playlist because I have done numerous videos going all the way back to live question and answer sessions that Linda Ray and I used to do right here at this table during the pandemic. Just the two of us side by side with not as fancy a camera as this, just my iPad set up here, Linda Ray with her laptop answering questions in real time, and we gave away free advice, and we streamed those videos and saved those videos. And as far back as 2021, 22, we answered questions like this, including that the fact the interest rate is 3.75% and how the deferred interest worked. And we have done follow-up videos on the deferred accrued interest situation multiple times, especially this year. Next, Misty goes on to say, I have called 4 different phone numbers where I'm dumped into the same message of, you will not be able to speak with anyone, please email. That is correct because, again, Misty, I reported here on our channel back in March or April when Ms. Leffler, the new SBA administrator, who is failing at running this administration the way she was a failed business owner before she ran the SBA into the ground. Did I say that? Oh, I did. Ms. Leffler arbitrarily just fired 43% of the staff at the SBA, which isn't helping you, Misty, because you can't get anybody on the phone. And she also switched the phone system over to, I'm thinking it's AI. It's a phone prompt menu. And you say here you cannot speak to anyone. Well, just as an FYI, folks, in our audience, if you've stayed with us this far, you're going to want to hit the thumbs up and like the video now if you didn't already. Thanks to some feedback from some of our clients on our 1-hour consulting calls, we have figured out how you can get someone on the phone at the SBA. Misty, for someone like you, can get someone on the phone at the SBA to answer important questions like this. And we are updating all of our blueprint guidebooks as we speak. I mean, not right this second because I'm the guy that has to do the updating, then I give it to Linda Ray, and then she has to publish it. But I am updating all of our guidebooks to include that information. Well, not all the guidebooks, but just the specific guidebooks about communicating with the SBA, especially about repayment problems. If you were subscribed, Misty, you would have seen that video back in March or April when it came out, especially if you were subscribed and you had hit the notification bell so you get notified every time we drop videos or publish videos or release videos or schedule videos. I don't know what the correct verb is here because I'm an old guy trying to work within the world of much younger content creators. That's just me. In any event, we dropped that video, published that video a few months ago, and if you were subscribed and had notifications, you would have seen it when it was released. And in that video, I said, there's nobody answering the phones at the SBA. There's nobody answering the phones at the SBA anymore. She fired everybody. There's nobody answering the phones for the COVID Servicing Center line anyway. There's nobody answering the phone at the SBA anyway. And we were alerted to that by a commenter on our YouTube videos, which then prompted me to pick up the phone and call the SBA and confirm, oh my God, that's right. There's nobody on the phone. But here in October 2025, I'm happy to report we have determined a process. There is a process. It's a tricky process on how you can get someone on the phone at the SBA. Okay. Misty Schultz goes on to say, my next step will be to contact an attorney. Okay, I don't know what your purpose of the attorney is, Misty, because we've done multiple videos on filing bankruptcy, if that's what you mean by contacting an attorney, or reading your loan agreement. We've done multiple videos where we have recommended that you consult with an attorney and read the loan agreement that you signed in 2022 when you got this $150,000 loan, and have that attorney read the legalese of that loan agreement and translate it to you as a small business owner, because it is written in federal legal jargon, and the blueprint guidebooks that we sell are excerpted from our what we call the EIDL resource hub. And that resource hub, which now is several hundred pages, that was created originally in the summer of 2020 when I wanted to take that loan agreement and put it into plain English, plain language for the 40 clients that had hired us in the early days of the pandemic. We got all of them approved, and I wanted them to be aware of their restrictions, their responsibilities, their requirements of the loan agreement. So I translated all that to plain English. And we continue that tradition to this day with these videos, with our guidebooks, and with our 1-hour calls. If, on the other hand, Misty, you're saying my next step will be to contact an attorney because you think you're going to sue the SBA, I would respond to that. Please don't waste your time. We already know that a class action suit was brought against the SBA by a group of Tennessee business owners who were white, and they were suing the Small Business Administration because they claimed they were being discriminated against as white people because the Restaurant Relief Fund and Shuttered Venue Grant, when it was released, provided a primary access point for people, business owners in what are deemed to be underserved communities, notably veterans of the armed forces, female-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses, Native American-owned businesses, and LGBTQ+ owned businesses. And the reason these are defined as underserved communities is because traditionally, going all the way back to the formation of the SBA in 1953, traditionally those groups have a harder time walking into a bank to get approved for traditional commercial financing. In fact, the Congress in 1953, when creating the SBA and creating these loan programs and this assistance for these groups, states that very language in the law. I've read the legislation in the early days of the pandemic. I wanted to know what SBA was and disaster loans, and I did that, and I read that legislation, and that's the language that's in there. And these business owners in Tennessee sued. They filed a class action lawsuit against the Small Business Administration, Isabella Casillas Guzman, the administrator at the time, saying they were being discriminated against because the SBA was giving priority access to these underserved communities. Well, what the SBA was doing was honoring its mission as defined by Congress in 1953. They were not saying to these business owners, you can't get the money. They were saying, we have to serve our primary constituency first. And we knew, I will tell you, I knew from our experience here at Aurora Consulting during the pandemic, we helped hundreds of clients who hired us to get approved for COVID loans, either the original loan or because they would decline for the loan or whatever, and we helped them to get approved. And I will tell you, especially with the Paycheck Protection Program, we heard all kinds of nightmare horror stories from people in those underserved communities who were unable to access that financing. And I think I don't need to talk about the legendary stories about certain senators and congresspeople who are not people from underserved communities who received PPP loans that were forgiven. That is why the SBA made that decision. And those guys from Tennessee filed that class action lawsuit. And Misty, if your intention here is to say, my next step will be to contact an attorney, if your intention is to follow that standard and try to file a class action lawsuit, the judge is going to toss it out, because that's what the judge did in the case of these dudes in Tennessee. The judge tossed it out of the court. I don't know the reasons. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to go into that. We have been saying this since the days of our live stream videos during the pandemic. If you want to file a class action lawsuit, you are wasting your time, your energy, your money, your emotion, your anxiety, everything. You're wasting it. Find other ways to use your time. Next, Misty says, I've also thought that maybe I will just stop paying them and put that money in a reserve account and see how long it takes them to call me. Well, what we have learned in recent weeks is they do seem to be much slower on the enforcement of collections on delinquent payments. It does not mean that they're not enforcing collections. They are. The SBA is. We know of several people who received what's called an acceleration letter because they were behind in payments. And those people booked 1-hour calls with me, and we reviewed different options that they have. But if you say here, Misty, you're intentionally going to do that, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, but I am a financial services professional with over going on 36 years of experience in the federal lending program world. And I would strongly advise you against such a radical and severe action, because that can really hurt you in multiple ways. And if you read your loan agreement with an attorney, you will see why, because there are civil and criminal penalties and so on. Okay, the final sentences here. This whole process is a nightmare. And Misty, I want you to know, Linda Ray and I agree with you, and most of the folks in our audience agree with you. We did videos about that previously, as I mentioned earlier. The help you needed during the pandemic is the nightmare you don't deserve today. And multiple other videos about payment hazards and payment problems. The United States Treasury collection debacle that happened at the end of 23 into early 2024, where the SBA shipped 860,000 loans to collections. Again, if you were subscribed, you would see all those videos that we did in real time when we released them last year. And we talked at length about how dysfunctional the SBA's management of the repayment program was, in my opinion. It feels more like a credit card debt than a loan debt. Look, what you've got here, in conclusion, is someone who clearly is new to our channel, Misty, and we thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll subscribe, and we hope you'll look for those free videos. And if you need special assistance, we have guidebooks and 1-hour consulting calls available. You can find links in the description, or just go to EIDLconsulting.com. But also, what we have here is, in my opinion, as a former loan officer as an expert in the SBA program, a small business owner who, through no fault of her own, has some clear lack of understanding about the basics of this loan program. And that lack of understanding, I don't mean that in a negative way or an offensive way to you at all, Misty. I mean it from the sense that, in my opinion, most people like you probably never had to get financing before the pandemic. And one of the very early videos I did this year in 2025 was answering a woman named Dana who kind of had a similar question about her loan. And I expressed this opinion in that video, which is many business owners never borrowed money before the pandemic. Or if they did, they at least had the experience of going to a commercial lender where the loan officer, somebody like me when I was a loan officer, walked them through the process and explained things and managed their expectations and understanding comprehension of the program. No such guidance or assistance existed from the SBA, not even to this day. The misinformation that comes out of the SBA, even to this day, is legendary. And again, we have discussed that in many, many, many of our videos. When you say it feels more like a credit card debt, I have to strongly disagree with you there. This, in my opinion, is just a regular loan. It's actually a fairly simple loan if you take the time to read the loan agreement and understand your restrictions, responsibilities, requirements, and adhere to those through compliance. The problem is that the agency that is managing repayment of this loan, the same agency that managed lending the loan originally, making the loans originally, is just not really equipped because Congress has ignored this agency as a stepchild of the federal government for many decades. Underfunded, overworked, overwhelmed. The SBA's ability to communicate with clarity about issues that you raise here, Misty, their tradition, in my experience and in my opinion, has been horrible. Even within their own internal communications to their own staff. I've experienced that and I've discussed that multiple times in our videos. Misty, I want to thank you for this very awesome comment. I hope you find my response helpful and not offensive at all. It is not my intention to offend you. It is my intention to educate you, as we do with all of the topics around the COVID EIDL program here on our channel. If you found this video helpful, please hit that thumbs up and like the video. Please subscribe so that you can keep informed with the information that we provide to you, help you manage the COVID EIDL program, the help you needed during the pandemic, the nightmare you don't deserve today. I'm Trevor, the EIDL expert, and I want to thank you, all of you, sincerely, for tuning in, and I'll see you the next time around.